Listening to the rumble of turning wheels, one can almost see the miller grinding flour for the townspeople. Thanks to the Friends of the Pine Creek Grist Mill, a group of dedicated, local volunteers who have put in thousands of hours to restore the mill and develop an educational program for the historic site, visitors to Pine Creek Grist Mill can step into life of a small frontier enterprise. Located in beautiful Wildcat Den State Park, Pine Creek Grist Mill, built in 1848, is the second grist mill built by Benjamin Nye, reportedly Muscatine County's first settler.
Benjamin and his nephew crossed the river at Buffalo. There was a ferry across the river, and Benjamin Clark was the ferryman, and Benjamin Nye asked Benjamin Clark where would be a good place to build a mill. And Benjamin Clark told him that the Pine River would be a good place, and so that's why he chose that area. And it's my understanding that it took 2 years to build it, 30 men helped build it, and it cost $10,000 to build.
Nye's first grist mill was outgrown by demand for flour from the influx of white settlers to the area, so a second mill was built.
So they would bring their grain to the mill to get ground into flour, and it was somewhat a community clearinghouse of information, visit with your neighbors. And a lot of times, if you showed up with a wagon load of grain, you couldn't get it ground into flour that day because the mill was busy. So you'd get in line.
Sometimes they had to stay for a couple of days because there were so many people ahead of them.
So you'd spend the night there visiting with other people waiting in line to have their grain ground. So it was the center of the community.
Today, the mill is located on the National Register of Historic Places and is thought to be the oldest working grist mill on its original site between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. The mill enjoyed many prosperous years and numerous owners while it served the Muscatine area. However, by the 1920s, business was dwindling. The state of Iowa purchased the mill as part of Wildcat Den State Park. In recent years, shrinking park budgets made it difficult to maintain the mill, and its condition steadily declined. In 1996, the park staff sought to save Pine Creek Grist Mill by forming the Friends Group. The mission of the Friends is to restore, operate, and maintain the mill, and to share the historical significance of the site through educational programs, public tours, and events. In more than 30,000 hours of volunteer labor, they have donated their time and talents to restore the mill to working condition.
At first, our goal was to restore the mill, to get things running. Actually, our first goal was to even find out what we had because we didn't know. And we didn't even know we had a water turbine. The mill was full of mud, so we dug down in the mud, found that we had a water turbine, drug it out, and it took several years to get that restored.
A group of very dedicated machinists in the Quad Cities rebuilt the turbine for us, and they rebuilt the penstock, and we actually got it to operate. And very shortly after that, the millstones were turning. And when we were actually able to grind grain again, it just changed the whole dynamic of the project. That people suddenly looked at the mill as being alive and just not a dead, static thing.
Figuring out exactly how the mill worked presented a challenge, as the processes have long since been replaced by modern technology. Members researched mill processes and restoration guidelines to restore machinery and structural elements as close to original design as possible. They repaired structural damage from past floods, constructed an unloading dock that doubles as a stage, and much more.
Very early in the project, we got a huge amount of support from the Department of Natural Resources that operates Wildcat Den. They've invested over $600,000 in the building. And from that point on, our goals for restoration became very open-ended. We decided to restore as much of the machinery in the mill as possible and to put it back into full operation if we could. This involved a lot more than just working on machines. The volunteers had to reverse engineer many of the machines because we didn't know what they did or how they did it. We had to rebuild them, we had to manufacture new parts, we had to document the process of making these new parts, reinstall the machines, learn how to operate them. The result is today that we have the complete grindstone milling system working, and we've done a lot of work on the steam engine, which was probably the biggest project we've ever done.
In 2003, the Friends began hiring trained staff to have the mill open 5 days a week during the summer.
The group tour leaders, the people that actually plan and purchase group tour services, love Pine Creek Grist Mill. It's a place that they can take their group, and it's different than things that they'll see in other parts of eastern Iowa.
A lot of the people who come there, when they walk in the door, I like to look at the look on their face because they just go, because they've never seen timber frame construction. This is the traditional way that large buildings were built and barns were built 200 years ago. So you're seeing a type of construction and architecture that just simply is not done and doesn't exist anymore.
The historical part of the mill is a great natural resource for the park to have. It brings many visitors to the park, and the uniqueness of all the machinery that it has is about second to none in any of the rest of the mills around the country.
No electric motors. You're seeing line shafts, big wooden pulleys, flat belts connecting all the machinery. When it's in motion, it's very, very dramatic, but this is a technology, again, that no longer exists. It disappeared over a century ago, and it all has been recreated, and it all is running again just like it did originally.
As we run the mill, there'll be lots of pulleys, belts running, and we'll actually grind corn into cornmeal, and sometimes we grind wheat. We can grind any grain.
As a former tour guide at Pine Creek Grist Mill, I noticed a lot of times there would be entire families. There would be grandchildren, parents, and grandparents, and they would all come together. And from there, the idea of when I was a little girl or when I was a little boy, this is what my life was like. And I think the grandparents get an opportunity to share a little bit of their life history with their grandchildren. And I think that's so important, bringing that family together and learning more and learning to communicate with one another. It's just a great opportunity to spend time together and share.
The Friends also created a school visit program to teach children about frontier life through hands-on activities, such as grinding their own corn into flour with hand stones, making butter by hand, and operating mini mills to make pancakes.
We get about 1,000 school kids to come out to the mill. We do a number of things with them. We demonstrate the mill, and we talk to them about our heritage, our pioneer heritage, how the pioneers lived. And we also make use of the Mill Pine Country School, which is right close to the mill. And we do things like have the school kids operate old-time tools, cross-cut saws, make shingles with old-time tools, so that they realize that it was hard, a lot of physical labor.
It's great to invite the teachers out there and to bring their classes. It's just not a day that's a free-for-all away from school. It's really a place where children can learn. So the mill is just a fabulous educational opportunity to apply some of the things that children learn in the classroom, and they get to apply it to a real-world situation.
In addition to education and tours, the mill also annually hosts its Heritage Day and Buckskinner's Rendezvous as a celebration of the early history of the area.
The Heritage Day celebration is in the lower part of the park, and that's centered around Mill Pine Country School and the Pine Creek Grist Mill itself. We have a person who will take visitors down to the Nye Cemetery. It's a pioneer era cemetery. She talks about the people that lived in the area in the early days. And while people are there, she will teach them how to do grave witching. We also have lots of food available. Our specialty is homemade ice cream that the Friends of the Mill make themselves, and a variety of pies made by 4-H kids and brought in. Then we have the famous Rubber Ducky Dam Race. We have lots of music going on. We have an old-time music jam fest where people from the community can come in and sit down and play with other musicians. We have a Sweet Adeline's group that comes in. We also have a barbershop group that comes in. And this year we added a brass quartet from the Muscatine Symphony.
Many interpretive volunteers come from around the area to recreate life around the mill as it was in the 1800s. A variety of skills are demonstrated, including old-fashioned tintype photography, blacksmithing, and broom making.
We have canoe rides on Pine Creek. We have a display of American Indian artifacts and trade goods. And a 4-H group will show children how to play old-time games from the 1800s. Plus the mill itself is open for people to walk around, look at it.
The annual event draws 1,500 visitors each year, and is held the second Saturday after Labor Day. The Rendezvous also takes place on this weekend.
The Buckskinner Rendezvous is people who like to depict the lifestyle and the times of the mountain man era, which would be the late 1700s, early 1800s in this part of the world, and also the mountain areas. So they take pride in having artifacts and clothing typical of that time period.
Along the way, there have been many memorable moments, from surprise encounters with snakes to receiving awards acknowledging the group's accomplishments. Skin knuckles, good stories, and an education later, the Friends of Pine Creek Grist Mill have created a fun, enriching historical experience for all who visit. But they aren't done yet. The Friends improve the mill every year in their continuing success toward a complete restoration of the mill and better funding for the interpretive program to preserve an important part of history. The benefit is a true-to-life learning experience for all ages.
I can't say too much about how rewarding it is to actually do something like this and to see something so important to our heritage actually come alive again and actually run. It's just a wonderful experience.
The friends and staff of Wildcat Den State Park invite you to come and enjoy the historical mill and beautiful scenery while experiencing a history lesson like no other.